Hello, my name is Byung Chang Bak, and today I'm going to talk about SQL injection attack. And let's start. I'm going to cover about these kind of things: what SQL injection is, and how to do it, and what can we do, and how to prevent it, and why is it interesting, to open questions. Mm, So let's imagine that there are two hacking tools. The one is really looking cool, but hard to use. And the other one is really looking not that cool, but powerful and easy to use. I think, in my opinion, I will go with the second one because it is easy to use. And the answer is SQL injection. Um, it allows an attacker to view data that is not normally able to retrieve. And the concept is simple. Still the SQL during the transferring and inject your malicious code into the target system, target SQL, and then you can retrieve whatever data you want. And if you can answer those three questions, you are ready to go. Do you know what database is? And do you know what SQL is? And do you know several HTML form tags and get and post method? Maybe all of you might familiar with these things. And there is a organization which works to improve the security of software, which is called OWASP, and they annually reports OWASP top 10 security breach. And as you can see in this image, the injection was ranked first back in 2017. And although it dropped two steps in 2021, but it is still dangerous attack method. And there was a real hacking situation. The target system was Sony Pictures, and 1 million user information was hacked on SonyPictures.com, and the SQL injection method was used. And the hacker was a group of black hat hackers, which is called LoneSec. They said like this: SonyPictures.com was owned by a very simple SQL injection, one of the most primitive and common vulnerabilities, as we should all know by now. So, so I think it shows that SQL injections impact when it is really activated on target system. And how to do it, and how to do SQL injection. So in this video, I will tell you with using DVWA web application, then vulnerable web app which has really vulnerable web pages. And its purpose is to help web developers better understand the process of securing web application. So now let's see how to do it using DBAA. Imagine that there is a SQL code like this. It is a PHP code. And as you can see in this image, and it combines user input into the query directly. I think it is really similar with the formatting string attack, as we've learned last lecture. So if we can, if we can change the first query into the second query, the difference is that there is double dash between the query. So double dash means comment, right? So if we put comment after at this point, and then after the remain text will be userless. So we can retrieve username BCGAAK from user table, not knowing password. So if you visit the DBAA, once you run on your your computer or your test computer, and then there are several security vulnerability you can test on. So we are talking about SQL injection. So if you visit SQL injection, and then you can see the page like this. So if you put user ID into this input tag, input form, and then click the submit button, and then you can retrieve the user name of user ID file. And maybe this web application does like this. You can see the black box, and then there is a query like this, and maybe this user ID is mapped into this position. So if there is no validation check or something like that, and then we can put our user own input into this query. And if we put user input like this, and then it will be transferred into this position, and which makes the where clause always true. So we can retrieve the data like this. And how about second case? It has changed from input tags to select tags. Instead of using input tags, using select tags, and so we cannot manipulate, or we cannot input our user input. But it is almost the same, because we can manipulate the web request using several tools. So in this case, I use Burp Suite, which is really most well-known security check program, and it can catch the request if I use Burp Suite, and I turned on intercept, and then I click the submit button, and then I can catch the request, get or post request. So I change the ID variable into this payload, and then the result will be the same. So there is no difference. Even if there is no validation check or any other method to deal with user input, and it is also vulnerable as well. And a little bit different defense system is using these kind of functions. So it is PHP code, and there is a MySQL real escape string function. And what it does is that it prepends backslash to the following characters. So if I put this kind of things, single quotation, and then that function automatically prepends the backslash in front of this kind of characters. So it prevents from SQL injection attack, but it's not a perfect one, because there is another detour method. So what if we intercept the web request, and then change the ID into like this, using hex code, using ASCII code, and then the result will be the same. So far we've studied how to do it, and then what can we do using SQL injection. So there are maybe several other things we can do with that, but I came up with these three types of things. The first one, subverting application logic, and the second one, retrieving hidden data, and third one, retrieve interesting data with union attack. So as you can see here, this part is the point where the attack is applied. And if we can put a double dash into this point, and then we can retrieve user data, not knowing password. So we can subverting application logic. And the second case is retrieving hidden data. So it is really same tactic. And if we put comment character between the inside the query, and then we can we and then we can retrieve give the data maybe which is not released yet. Okay, and I think third thing is really a third thing has much more impact if we when we are succeed in SQL injection, because if we put union SQL query and after the target query, and then we can get whatever data we want. So how to prevent it from happening? So the first method is parameterized query. There are two query. They do the same thing, but the first query receive the user input directly into each query. So it's really dangerous. So there are so if you make web application like this, and then you shouldn't do that. And so we can change this to like this. It prepare statement. There is prepare statement function. It is kind of a bridge. So if you put query into this function, and then this function change the query into certain form that cannot be changed. So if you put whatever input, if you put whatever user input to this prepare statement, and then the logic, the original logic of the query has not been changed. It cannot be changed. And the second method is the base concept is similar to one. And if you get user input from the web application, and then you need to check the param. So the parameter cannot be inserted into directly SQL query. So why is it interesting? I think SQL injection is really interesting because it is cost effective. Maybe not right now. You can think that, oh, it's really easy, and maybe I can do it right now. So it's really easy to understand, and it's really easy to exploit. But the impact could be really huge. As we've seen earlier slide, Sony Pictures ends up leaking more than 1 billion user data. So lastly, I want to ask you two open questions. So is it also possible in no SQL system? Can we do SQL injection in no SQL system, such as MongoDB or CouchDB or something like that? And the second question is that, is it possible to prevent SQL injection thoroughly? So could you answer those questions? And that's all for today. And thanks for watching my video. Bye-bye.